What's up, Porch Nation? Welcome back to Porch Nation headquarters, here perched atop one of Worcester's 6 majestic hills. Yes, I know Worcester has 7 hills, but we also know one of those hills is complete bullshit. The 2024 regular season has reached its conclusion, and our final week delivered the drama. We had a couple of last-minute playoff shakeups, history repeats itself, and we had a change in league leadership. Week 14, the final regular season week, 8 games, let's get into it. All right, folks, week 14 is here, and it was a fireworks show. As we wrap up our division play, we'll highlight some history of the divisions as well. Let's start out in the Southlands to kick it off. The Greatest League began in 2009 as a 20-team league with 4 divisions of 5 teams each, which had themed names like Fitchburg, Worcester, and Points Beyond. The rule of threes dictates I not list the 4th division. 9 teams remain from that chaotic roster of managers. In 2010, the divisions became more simplified, as did the size of the league, with 4 divisions of 4 teams, and divisions meant to loosely represent where people were located based off, I guess, Worcester as a central point? I don't know. We saw Ethan, myself, and somehow Pete representing the South Division. The rule of threes can't say the 4th manager in that division. At the time, Josh Steinberg and Adam represented the East Division, and Skinner a mystical Central Division, where you would also find Joe and Jim Berger too as well. In 2011, the East Division as we knew it was 86th for a West Division, which was occupied by yours truly, Ethan, and Ross on his first year in the league that year. Also, Adam and Josh Steinberg would find their home in the South Division alongside Dylan and Pete at that point. The South would remain those 4 teams until 2014, when Dylan and Pete would move to the East for good, and Skinner would find his permanent home in the South Division. In 2015, Andy would join the league, and the South Division was whole. Our South Division lineup has remained the same for an amazing 10 years now. Thanks for being here, fellas. With Skinsy's 3 Super Bowl titles and Adams' 2, the South is home to 5 Super Bowl titles. Let's check in on Skinner's game this week against current South Division winner, Josh Steinberg. This one was lopsided, and Josh Steinberg brought his A-game as he has several times this year already, and posted this week's highest score. Fun fact, until this year, Skinner had never gone 5-9 in all of his time in the league. The other matchup featured Andy, who's won the South Division title once, and Adam, who has won the division title twice. Adam has 2 Super Bowl titles in his tenure, though only one as a member of the South Division. His first title came in 2010 when he was a member of the first iteration of the East Division, making his total division titles 3 since he also won 1 in the East. Let's check in on the West Division, which, as I mentioned, is on its 14th season. The West Division is a division of pizzazz and personality, but also 0 Super Bowl championships. But we do have 4 Super Bowl losses amongst us. That's something, right? Alex and Ross have never known anything but the West Division in their years. As I mentioned, the West Division became a thing the same year Ross joined the league, and Alex joined the league in 2016. Alex has also already secured the West Division crown for 2024, making it his 3rd time. Ross has won the division twice, including 2017, a year that Alex would go to the Super Bowl as a wild card team, losing to Dylan. This week, Alex came in swinging and beat Ross handily. Alex secured the number 1 seed with this win. In the other West matchup, Ethan and I squared off. In the first year of the league, I occupied the Fitchburg division, which I shared with, again, rule of threes, Berger, Joe, and Josh Marshall, whom I faced in the Super Bowl that season. One of 2 Super Bowl appearance and losses for me. Josh has attended 2 more Super Bowls since winning our first, with a loss to Dylan in the 2013 Super Bowl and a win in 2018, exacting his revenge. Ethan has 3 division titles, and in 2010, his first season in the league, lost to Adam in his lone Super Bowl appearance. He represented the South Division with me and Pete that season. I have 4 West Division titles and have lost the Super Bowl twice. My second Super Bowl loss came in 2015, losing to Skinner after losing that first ever against Josh Marshall. This week, basically only Ethan's Niners players showed up, but so did mine. With this win, I split our season series. In Ethan's first 6 seasons in the league, 2010 until 2015, I led our series of head-to-heads 8 games to 4 in all regular season fare. Since he returned last year, he's turned the tables on me, winning 3 games and losing 1 to me, and now drawing our all-time series record 9-7 in my favor. Let's head north to our longest-standing division, as crazy as that sounds, founded in 2010, and Dee and Steve were there. Dee had a division loosely named after her in 2009. In 2010, Steve's first season in the league, they would meet in the newly constructed North Division. Most people don't know that's how they first met. Thanks, North Division. These 2 faced off this week. Steve completed the season sweep, Dee tied Adam's record for most losses in a row, and with this win, and details to come, Steve snags the 6th seed in the championship bracket. The other North matchup was a head-to-head featuring 2 division rivals who have been rivals since it was a thing. Starting back in the aforementioned Fitchburg division of 09. I did the research so that you don't have to. Let's do a history in increments of 5, mostly. In their first 5 years in the league, they went from the Fitchburg division in 09, the Central division for the 10 and 11 seasons, then the East division for 12 and 13. In that span, Joe owned their head-to-head record at 7-3. For the next 5 seasons, from 2014 to 2018, they found their home in the North Division as permanent residents alongside Dee and Steve, who had already been mainstays for 4 seasons there. In their first season in that division, they both went to the playoffs. Joe was 12-2 and won the division, and Berg was 10-4 and was a wild card. Joe would go on to win the 3rd place game in those playoffs. Joe also swept Berg in that first season in the North, an unfortunate pattern for Senior Berger. Their first 5 seasons in the North were a sweep in total for Joe, adding 10 wins to their total head-to-head record in that span, so it was now 17 games to 3 in Joe's favor. The next 5 years went a bit different. Beginning in 2019, Berger turned the tides in the regular season, including a final week showdown for the division, win and get a bye week. Joe famously got his revenge in their one and only ever playoff face-off. Joe beat Jim to the punch to get a ticket to the Super Bowl. That season is also famous for featuring our one and only ever undefeated season and 2,000-plus total pointer, Matt Skinner, who defeated Joe in the Super Bowl by a wide margin. Fast forward now, in these 5 seasons, plus 1 more, since 2018, Berg edged out the 7-5 turn on their record, bringing their total, including that one playoff game, to 23-10 in Joe's favor. Finally, home to more than half of the league's championships, the East Division. The East Division, the young gun, the upstart, the elder statesman. The East is a collection of the newest member of the league and also the most tenured overall division in the league. but then also just plainly the newest division in the league. Oh my good gracious, this has been a lot of words. Anyway, the East Division first came to be in 2010. Listen, I've never told anyone what happened here. The true story is far too shocking to commit to the internet for all of time, but I'll just say, the East Division was run by a would-be despot who tanked the division financially through ego and revenge-driven business decisions, and an outside investor bought it and rebranded it the West Division, which is now totally a legit operation. But the thing is, in 2011, the Central Division leadership were caught in an all-night strip and fried fish joint with some shady business types. You know that old story. So they were bought up and taken over by the exact same despot who had been ousted before and rebranded the Central Division the East Division in 2012. It's a real why would they, how could they, you know? So the West Division is kind of like the Indianapolis Colts to the East Division's Baltimore swoopin'-assed Ravens. In 2019, Jeff joined the league, inheriting a 3-11 team from the year prior, and remains our newest manager to this day. In 2019, Jeff took that team to a division-winning 11-3, only to lose to a surging Josh Marshall in the playoffs. Pete has been in the league since jump, starting in the Worcester Division in the first year, then the South Division until 2013. Starting in 2014, Rule of Threes, Josh Marshall, Dylan, and Pete would call the East home for good. Okay, here's the brief history of Pete versus Jeff. Since joining the league in 2019, Jeff and Pete have faced off 12 times, including this week. Coming into this game, Jeff held an 8-3 lead in that series, and this week he completes the season series sweep and improves his head-to-head lead to 9-3 versus Pete. And now our game of the week. Josh Marshall and Dylan are a storied rivalry. Both managers have been in all 16 seasons of our league's history, and they have played each other a staggering number of times. Also, Josh Marshall is in rare company with Adam and Joe, as not only being in all 16 seasons of this league's history, but also never having changed their team names ever. Credit where it's due, Dylan's name now is exactly the name he had in 2009, but it has changed over the years from time to time. These two faced off in year one, where Josh Marshall took the first win in their long history in week 9 of the regular season. In year two, both Dylan and Josh Marshall found a home in the Grand Old North Division, and Josh swept their season series there. D won the division that year. In 2011, Dylan moved to the South Division, and so they only faced off once in the regular season, where Dylan would take his first win in their series. In 2012, for the first time, they had no game against each other. But the following season, they would face off in the regular season for another Dylan win, and then again in the Super Bowl, when Dylan would even their series in the highest stakes way, 3-3. In 2013, the two became permanent residents of the East Division. In total, these two have seen each other in 27 regular season games and 4 playoff games. 2 in the first round, and 2 in Super Bowls. Dylan, including this game, leads their series 18-9. They're 1-1 in the first round and 1-1 in Super Bowls. Coming into this week, Josh Marshall held essentially a half-game lead in the division and the 3rd seed in the playoffs. Well, we got a close one. Late into Sunday afternoon, projections were still favorable for Josh, but Herbert falls shy of his projection, and Dylan hung on for an exactly 6.5-point victory. Wow, no more talk, playoff stuff.
Playoffs? Don't talk about it. Playoffs? You kidding me?
And there was week 14, folks. And I think I've said far too many words already, so I'll keep this part brief. Before I sign off, a congratulations to our league leader for points this year, Josh Steinberg. We saw a competitive battle to the end. Alex had taken the distinction a few weeks ago and led by about 21 points at the end of last week. But Josh scored this week's highest score and took the points lead by almost exactly 15 points. All right, folks, until next week, keep thriving, Porch Nation.
Bloop.